So we're trying to simplify this expression, and there are a few things that we have to look at here. First, we see a lot of fractions. Things like adding and subtracting fractions require common denominators. We also have grouping symbols, these sets of parentheses, and according to order of operations, those symbols have to be taken care of first, or whatever's inside there must be taken care of first. So don't forget something called PEMDAS. That is, grouping symbols have to be simplified first, and then anything with an exponent. Next, multiplication or division. So these two are actually, they have the same superiority. Whichever one of these operations you see first, reading your equation from left to right is which one you'll do first. And then finally, addition or subtraction. And again, these two have the same level of superiority, whichever one comes first from left to right. So grouping automatically first, exponents come second, and then third, either multiplication or division, whichever you see first from left to right, and then finally addition or subtraction, whichever one you see first from left to right. So we're going to look at what we have going on here, our grouping symbols. So first we have this set of parentheses, but it's just around something, just one term, a fraction. And then we have another set of grouping symbols, and we have an operation that actually can be completed within the grouping symbols. So our first operation that we're going to do is trying to subtract 1/4 from 1/8. To be able to subtract two fractions, you need to have a common denominator, because this tells you how many pieces, whatever it is that you're looking at, is broken into. And one piece out of 4 pieces is a lot bigger than one piece out of 8 pieces. So we need to get these on equivalent number of pieces of a whole. So to find a common denominator, we look for a number that both 4 and 8 will divide. And the smallest number that both 4 and 8 will divide is 8. So we multiply the top and the bottom of our fraction over here by 8. What that'll do is give us a common denominator of 8 for both fractions. And then also we've changed the fraction without really changing it, because when we multiply by 2 over 2, or if we divide 2 divided by 2, this is just a 1. So we've changed the fraction without really changing it. So this becomes 1/8 minus 2/8. And to subtract fractions or add fractions, we just add or subtract the denominators. So 1 minus 2 is a -1, and then the denominator stays the same. So 1/8 minus 1/4 has now become 1/8. I'm going to rewrite my problem, simplifying that set of parentheses. So 1/8 minus 1/4 has now become -1/8 minus 4 over 3 times 1/8. Again, I still have grouping symbols, but these grouping symbols right now just represent that I'm multiplying two numbers together. So since there's no actual addition or subtraction or multiplication or anything to be done within the grouping symbols, they just get left alone. The next piece that I look for, or the next operation that I look for, is exponents. So I do in fact have an exponent here. What that number means is that's the number of times I multiply a number with itself. So 2/3 to the third power means I multiply 2/3 together 3 times. To multiply fractions, we just multiply across the top. So 2 times 2 times 2 gives me 8, and 3 times 3 times 3 gives me 27. So I've finished my grouping symbols. I've taken care of my exponents. 2 over 3 to the third power now looks like 8 over 27. And this is going to get multiplied with 1/8. And then we'll subtract 4/3 and 1/8. So we've taken care of our grouping symbols, our exponents. Now we're looking for either multiplication or division, whichever one comes first. And we have multiplication, 8 over 27 times negative 1 over 8. And we also have 4 over 3 times 1 over 8. To multiply two fractions, we just multiply across the top, and then we simplify fractions, so we look for any factors that they would have in common. So really what we're doing here is we're doing 8 times negative 1 over 27 times 8. And over here in the second set that's being multiplied together, I have 4 times 1 over 3 times 8. What I would suggest doing before you actually multiply these numbers together is look and see if your fractions can be simplified. That is, are there any factors in the numerator that are also in the denominator? And by factors, I mean numbers that you're multiplying with. So in my numerator, I have an 8, and in my denominator, I also have an 8. So that's equivalent to 8 over 8, or 8 divided by 8, which is 1. So now you're just left with negative 1 over 27 for this first set of fractions. And then here I have 4 times 1 and 3 times 8. Well, 4 and 8 can both be divided by 4. So I'm going to divide or take a factor of 4 away from the top and then a factor of 4 away from the bottom, so that 8 becomes a 2. So now I have negative 1 over 27 minus 1 times 1, which is just 1 over 6. All right. And now I'm just left with two fractions where I need to find a common denominator. So some number that 27 and 6 will both divide into. When you're looking for common denominators, you're almost always going to have to go up. So 27 would be the absolute lowest number that we would use as a common denominator. But 6 and 27, or 6 will not divide into 27. So we have to look for something that 6 will divide into and that 27 will also divide into. If we multiply 27 by 2, we get 54. And if we look, 6 will also divide 54. So what we'll have to do is multiply this first fraction by 2 over 2, and what we're trying to do is get this denominator to 54. And then multiply the second fraction by 9 over 9, because 6 times 9 is what would make this second denominator also 54. So go ahead and multiply 2 times negative 1, which is 2. 2 times 27, that's 54. Minus, do your multiplication over here. That operation comes before the addition or subtraction. 1 times 9, which is 9, and 6 times 9, which is 54. Now to subtract two fractions across the top, negative 2 minus 9 is a negative 11, and the denominators stay the same. So your denominator is 54. Take a second look at it. Make sure that negative 11 and 54 don't have any factors in common. That is, that your fraction can't be simplified. And if your fraction can't be simplified, then you are done.